So from an early age, I was always very trusting around other people. I had no inhibitions. I had no real boundaries, and I didn't really know a stranger. I remember my mom telling me that even as a young girl, I would go up to random strangers and tell them that I loved them. And she had said it was excessive, and that's what really raised red flags for her is the fact that I almost it was almost like I threw caution to the wind. Like I was so reckless in that. Um, but I always craved attention. Um, I just wanted to be loved. And I think a lot of that stemmed from the fact that my parents were such high achievers, they had such high standards that I felt like nothing I did was ever good enough to gain their approval. Um, so that I had to try to find that elsewhere. And so I was always going up to people, asking them if they thought I was pretty, if they thought I was good enough, if they thought I was smart, um, because I didn't feel like I could ever meet that mark with my parents. Once I was at the age where I started going to school, this manifested itself in me just so desperately wanting to fit in and wanting to make friends that I tried so hard to the point where I would actually push people away. Um, and that lack of attention that I would get just made me want to act out more just so I could get attention. And as I mentioned in the previous segment, it's like when you don't get attention and you crave it, you will do anything to get attention, whether it be negative attention or positive attention. So I learned to act out. Um, and as a result, my parents would hear about it and they would have their own ways of disciplining me. And for me, it was a vicious cycle because the more I didn't get that attention I craved, the more I would act out, which would lead to more punishment, which would lead to being outcast more and me wanting more attention and acting out. So it was almost like this cycle that I could not break. And people didn't understand it back then, was that I just needed to be loved. I just wanted to be noticed, and I just wanted people to see me, but all they saw was this kid with behavior issues that they couldn't control. And it was pretty much by me trying so hard to make friends, to be liked, to be loved. I was just digging myself deeper and deeper into a grave. I also think that from an early age, I caught on pretty quick that I wasn't attractive and that people didn't think I was pretty. At least I felt people didn't feel I was worthy of attention because of the way I looked. And I remember in kindergarten, um, people calling me ugly, scrub, chinky butt, um, every derogatory name, gook. Um, and I remember I had to wear a pair of glasses, and they had a little butterfly on the frame, and I would get called names like butterfly binoculars, um, and I also have pretty long fingers. So people would call me Pinocchio fingers. Um, People would say pretty inappropriate things um, regarding how I looked. Um, it was like they wanted to find whatever they could just to tear me down. Um, and it got to the point where my teachers would join in and um, gang up on me too. Um, and it was like I got instilled in me in a pretty early age that I was never going to be good enough and that nothing I did would ever be good enough for anyone else. So you have this girl who is hyperactive, impulsive, can't sit still, craves attention, has all sorts of behavior problems on top of her looks. Um, and because of her attention problem, um, her performance in the classroom was poor. So, on top of everything that I just mentioned, uh, people thought that I was stupid. And, um, they would see me struggle in the classroom. So, comments would be made like, oh, well, you're just a retard. You need to ride the short bus because you're a retard, and retards ride the short bus. And it was just nonstop. Nonstop. Um, and that, on top of the fact that my teachers had to move my desk to the front of the classroom because I was seen as such a disruption, only made those comments worse. Oh, well, you're such a retard that you needed to get moved up next to the teacher so um, you can the teacher can watch you closer, or whatever they chose to say. It was just nothing but hate and mean comments. Um, and that was all they could see. They didn't want to see past that. They didn't want to try to understand. And when the kids would make comments like that, the teachers didn't even try to defend me. The teachers didn't even try to say, hey, let's not talk like that. Let's not treat her that way. But they did nothing. And to me, it's like if you stand by and watch someone get bullied and don't do anything about it, you might as well just do the bullying yourself, because that's what it felt like. It felt like no one was for me. No one was in my corner. It felt like I was just lost, and that nothing I did could ever make people see who I really was, or who I wanted to be. And I didn't have the voice back then to speak up for myself. I didn't think to tell my parents. I didn't think to get my parents involved, because I thought that, oh, well, even the teachers are saying this stuff about me, so why would my parents say anything different? So I just kept it all inside to myself. I didn't know how to stand up for myself. I didn't know how to be assertive. So I just took it. I just took it all in, and just it got to the point where, to me, that's how things were gonna be. That's what was normal to me. I think at first the comments started out as innocent, just teasing, but then it just escalated pretty quickly. to derogatory name calling, and then I started getting death threats. Like, people would make comments like, "Hey, you stupid chinky bitch, like, you better watch out because we're gonna come and kill you and your chinky family, so you better go home where you came from." Just things like that that would just, I, back then didn't understand what was happening. I didn't understand like that level of hate. And I think even in the middle of all that, when all of that was being said, all of that was being done to me, I didn't want to believe that people could be so hurtful. So instead, I turned it back around on me. And I honestly believe there was something fundamentally wrong with me, that was making it so that people didn't want to get to know me, that I wasn't worthy of love. I wasn't worthy of the attention that I was seeking. That there was something so, it just, it was just wrong. I came to believe that I was wrong, that who I was not right. From that point forward, I think my whole takeaway was I have to be someone else in order for me to be liked, because who I am in other people's eyes is not the right way to be.